Weak and frail, she looked into her daughter's eyes, her voice very, very clear despite her frailty. "Naomi," she began, "I loved you with everything I had. I worked day and night to give you a life I never had. But you forgot me. You treated me like I didn't matter. You ignored my pain, my needs, and my love. For everything I did, this is how you repaid me." Tears streamed down Naomi's face, but Mama Naomi wasn't finished. "This thing you have done to me, Naomi, your children will do twice as much to you. Mark my words." With those final words, Mama Naomi closed her eyes and passed away. Naomi fell to her knees, crying uncontrollably, but it was too late. The damage had been done, and her mother's curse had been spoken. Adekunle found Naomi sobbing in the room after he rushed in when he heard a shrill scream and thought that her tears were only because her mother had passed away. A few weeks later, Naomi's mother was buried, and she returned home feeling a deep sense of regret for how she had actually treated her mother. The memories of her harsh words and unkind actions played over and over in her mind like a haunting melody. She knelt beside her bed every night, whispering apologies to the heavens, asking for forgiveness from her deceased mother. "Mama, I am so sorry," she would say, tears streaming down her cheeks. "If only I could turn back the hands of time, I would have done better, Mama. Please forgive me." But the past was gone, and all she could do was to continue living her own life. A few months later, Naomi found out that she was pregnant with her first child. The pregnancy was smooth, and when she finally gave birth to a beautiful baby girl, she named her Ene after her late mother. Holding her daughter for the first time filled Naomi with indescribable joy. She vowed to make Ene her best friend, to be the kind of mother she had once taken for granted. Life for Naomi was good. Her husband was supportive, her business was thriving, and her home was filled with love and laughter. 2 years later, Naomi became pregnant again, and this time she gave birth to a set of twin boys. The news of having twins brought even more happiness to their home. Though the house was now livelier and noisier, Naomi embraced motherhood with all her heart. However, after the birth of her boys, she decided that she was done having children and opted for family planning. 3 children were enough, and she wanted to focus on raising them well without the burden of another pregnancy. As her children grew into toddlers, Naomi made sure that they lacked nothing. They had the best clothes, toy cars, delicious foods, and every other thing that could make childhood memorable. She organized small birthday parties, took them on weekend outings, and even created a small play area in their backyard. Her house was always filled with laughter, and every day she looked at her children with a grateful heart, knowing she was doing her best to give them the life she wished she had when she was younger. As Naomi's children grew into their teenage years, she continued to shower them with everything they desired. She feared that the curse her mother had placed on her would come to pass, so she made sure her children never lacked anything. They had the best of clothes, shoes, mobile phones, and tablets. Every holiday, Naomi took them on luxurious vacations abroad, ensuring they experienced the finest things in life. She believed that by giving them all they wanted, they would always love her and never treat her the way she had treated her own mother. Day by day, her pampering knew no bounds. At school, Teachers found it difficult to discipline her children because Naomi was always quick to defend them. If a teacher so much as raised a voice at Naomi's children, Naomi would storm into the school, causing a scene, warning that nobody had the right to correct her kids. She saw discipline as a form of harshness and constantly reminded herself that she would never be like her mother. Meanwhile, her husband Adekunle saw things differently. He warned Naomi severally that she was raising the children in a dangerous way, that life was not a bed of roses and they needed to learn responsibility. But Naomi waved his warnings aside because she believed that she was doing the best for her children. Now, by the time Naomi's children became adults, in their early 20s precisely, the damage had been done. They were completely incapable of taking care of themselves. They couldn't cook, clean, or do anything domestic because they had always been waited on hand and foot. They never lifted a finger to do anything, and they believed that life would always be easy. With no discipline or sense of responsibility, they began to engage in reckless lifestyles. They spent their days partying, drinking, and experimenting with illegal substances. Their lives were spiraling out of control, but Naomi was still in denial. She kept making excuses for them, believing they were just going through a phase as young adults and would definitely grow out of it. Naomi knew about her children's bad attitude being dangerous, but she still encouraged them, convincing herself that she was only shielding them from the kind of relationship she had with her own mother. She had sworn that her children would never treat her with disdain the way she had treated her own mother, and in doing so, she continued to overlook their flaws. Even when their friends started complaining about their arrogance and entitlement, Naomi would still defend them, insisting that they were completely misunderstood. Her husband, however, refused to stand by and watch his children spiral into destruction. He constantly tried to undo what Naomi was doing by disciplining them, using every possible means to put them on the right path. There was a day he found some illegal substances in their rooms, and without hesitation, he called the police to arrest them. He hoped the experience would teach them a lesson and make them realize that they were destroying their lives. After their release, he sat them down once again and gave them a firm warning about the dangers of their lifestyle. He tried to draw them closer, offering fatherly advice and guidance. But, as always, Naomi quickly undid his effort again by pampering them, assuring them that their father was only being too harsh. However, the consequences of their reckless behavior soon caught up with them. Naomi's children began losing friends one by one, as people could no longer tolerate their entitlement and arrogance. Their peers refused to associate with them, and soon loneliness crept into their lives. The wake-up call came when one of their closest friends died from a drug overdose. The shock of losing a friend was overwhelming, but the real turning point was when one of the twin boys also overdosed and barely survived. That was when reality finally hit Naomi's children. For the first time in their lives from then, they started reflecting on their choices. They began to see the truth in their father's words, realizing that he had been right all along. With a newfound determination, they slowly started changing their ways. They became more responsible, learning basic domestic skills that they had once ignored. They also found themselves gravitating towards their father the more. He had been the one to discipline them, to set boundaries, and to warn them about the dangers of their reckless lifestyle. As they matured, they realized the value of his guidance. They then started spending more time with him, seeking his counsel and respecting his authority. Naomi, on the other hand, was left behind in their hearts. She still wanted to spoil them, to dote on them endlessly, but they no longer wanted that. They had outgrown the version of themselves she had created, and they now saw the dangers her overindulgence had done. As time went by, Naomi's children, as they became more responsible, began to resent her. They could not relate to her anymore, and they saw her as the reason for their past mistakes. They avoided her as much as possible, stopped sharing their lives with her, and no longer sought her approval. Desperate to regain their love and attention, Naomi resorted to doing everything for them once again. She washed their clothes, cleaned their rooms, and cooked their favorite meals, all without a single complaint. But this only made her children despise her the more. They saw her actions as being pathetic and desperate, and they wanted nothing to do with her. Eventually, they all made a drastic decision. They moved out, each finding a place of their own, far away from their mother. They cut off communication with her, blocked her number, and refused to respond to any of her messages, either through their father's phone or through any other body's phone. It was as if she no longer existed in their lives. Naomi couldn't eat. She couldn't sleep for days, and slowly she slipped into depression and became more empty inside day by day. She couldn't believe her own children were doing even worse to her than what she had done to her own mother. Oh, her mother's curse. Was this it? Was this how it was going to come to pass? For the very first time since everything started happening, Naomi understood the depth of the pain she had caused her own mother. The realization weighed heavily on her. She became a shadow of her former self, overcome with more guilt and regret and then grief. She found herself thinking about her mother every single day, reliving the moments she had taken for granted. One morning, unable to bear the weight any longer, she visited her mother's grave. With tears streaming down her face, she knelt before her tombstone, her hands trembling as she whispered, "Mama, I am sorry. I finally understand." She wept bitterly, begging for forgiveness, praying for the curse to be lifted, for redemption, for peace. But the wind was silent, and the only response she received was the sound of rustling leaves in the distance. Despite the silence, however, Naomi sat by her mother's tombstone, tears streaming down her face as she continued to whisper words of regret in the cold night air. It was in that moment, under the moonlight, that she realized the full weight of her own mistakes. She had been a mother controlled by fear rather than wisdom. She had allowed guilt and something else she couldn't understand to blind her from disciplining her own children the right way. And now she was paying the price. But in the waves of emotion, Naomi found peace. She felt it, that her mother's spirit was at peace with her, and she made a decision that she was going to forgive herself and truly be a mother, just like her mother had been to her when she was alive. Determined to right her own wrongs, Naomi began to change. She begged her husband to connect her to her children, and she became the mother she should have been from the very start. Firm, loving, and wise. She no longer acted like a servant to them, but rather as a parent, guiding her children towards the right path. She spoke to them calmly, set rules, and most importantly, upheld them. She apologized when necessary, but never out of desperation, only out of love and sincerity. Naomi's children at first were skeptical. They had grown used to a mother who bent over backwards for them. But over time, they saw the sincerity in her actions. They saw how she no longer tried to buy their love with material things, but instead gave them something much more deeper: guidance, support, and discipline. Slowly, they began to embrace her once again. One by one, they started coming home more often, sitting with her in the evenings, and even confiding in her. Naomi gathered them one day and tearfully asked for their forgiveness. With softened hearts, her children actually forgave her, and for the first time in years, they were truly a family, one bound not by guilt or fear, but by genuine love. One evening, Naomi knelt down, looked up into the heavens with tears in her eyes, and thanked her mother for giving her the privilege to experience her children's love. The moral of this story is simple: never ever mistreat your mother, for a mother's tears can bring blessings, but they can also bring curses. Karma is real, and the energy we put into the world will always find its way back to us. As the old saying goes, a child who does not listen to his mother's words will eventually sit at the feet of regrets. Let us learn from Naomi's story, and may we always cherish and respect the ones who brought us into this world. Thank you for joining me on this story. I appreciate your attentive ears. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, comment your opinion, and then share. It goes a very, very long way in showing us how much you love and support us. Thank you once again. Till I come your way in another video. Bye.